Ideally, a person is embodied, which means they're aware of their body and their physicality, and they're also aware of their environment and their surroundings and essential truths as well. So some spiritual practices will emphasize disembodiment more than embodiment, or embodiment more than disembodiment, instead of a good balance between the two. So a healthy embodied person is grounded and stable. But a person who's embodied to excess may be centered on their own sensual experiences only. They're only focused on their bodily experiences. And that can be a little self-centered. A disembodied person is a person who's more open and receptive, but also in excess, unstable, ungrounded, or scattered. Here are some disembodying beliefs. 1. Believing that the body is irrelevant to true fulfillment. And you see this in some practices where people are trying to, in a way, cast the body away or treat the body as irrelevant and say, I'm just focused on my soul, right? But even your soul isn't just focused on your soul. Your soul is focused on using the body as an instrument for its fulfillment. So it's not irrelevant to fulfillment. Another disembodying idea is believing that a person is just a spirit trapped in their body, right? Like that my body has defects, but my spirit has none. And if I can only free myself of this, difficult body or even my bodily defects, some people might say, well, I'm just beautiful within, even though I'm not beautiful on the outside. My body's not beautiful. And they may reject the body in some level. And I would say that, the self is the whole package in a way. I think that Ayurveda would make that claim, that the self is the whole package, a body, mind, and a spirit, and not just one of those things. Anyway, I had a client once who in our session kept saying things like the stomach wasn't feeling well, or the head was having a headache, or the body was tired. And this was confusing language to me at first, and eventually I began to wonder. And then I asked the client, why do you keep referring to your body in third person? I mean, initially I thought she was talking about someone else's stomach, or almost like conjured up this idea that that there was this stomach sitting on a table or something somewhere, or in a petri dish. And it was very disorienting at first. And so I asked her, why do you keep referring to your body in third person? And she said that her guru had instructed her to speak this way to destroy all attachments to the flesh. So that would be a disembodiment practice. To be more embodied, I would say moderate these kinds of activities, like anything that's really etheric, right? Listening to ambient music. There was this phase in the early O's where I was just totally into ambient music. I was like, this is so mystical. This is, so etheric. This is amazing. I feel like I'm floating. And I was into that. But it was disembodying, right? It was a bit spacey. Also, practices that include blissing out, or mystical out-of-body experiences, which people try to encourage, right? They want to bliss out. And there's a difference between blissing out and blissing in, right? I just want to mention that. Anything too trance-inducing. So, also in the late O's, I got really into drumming. I was living in Morocco. I started studying Middle Eastern rhythms on the darbuka or doumbek, depending on what that drum is called in different cultures. And Moroccan music is not linear with a beginning, middle, and an end, but it's often more circular and rhythmic, and you'll go through the same, set of notes or same melody over and over and over again. And each time you go around in the circle, you may express different emotions, different, sometimes it might be relaxed, other times it might be intense and passionate, etc. And you just go over it again and again. It's kind of trance-inducing. And that can be a bit disembodying also. Breath work itself can be a little bit disembodying. It can be very grounding, breath work. And this is also true for different forms of meditation, right? It can be very grounding. But in the end, the air is somewhat ethereal, and the mind is somewhat ethereal too. The mind doesn't exist in physically, but it's somewhat immaterial. Yes, the mind is in the brain and in the body, but its thoughts are not material. And so breath work and deep contemplative practices, deep meditations can be a bit ungrounding and can make a person spacey or a little bit detached. And it does depend on the type and how you're doing it. For example, when you're focusing on the breath, right? You can hear that in yoga studios. Focus on the breath, focus on the breath. What exactly is it that you're focused on when you're focusing on the breath? Are you focusing on the air that you're breathing? Or are you focusing on breathing, meaning the way your muscles are contracting and expanding and the movement of your body while breathing? So if you're focused on the air when you focus on the breath, that is a bit disembodying and ungrounding. If you're focused on your muscles and the movement of your body while breathing, that's a little bit more grounding and more embodied. Empty bowl meditation is another practice that can be disembodying. Any practice of emptying yourself at all is one where you're, in a way, emptying yourself of your own nature, and that puts you in an extremely receptive state. And that is almost by definition really subtle, opening you up, can be ungrounding and destabilizing. Dr. Lad, who was my Ayurveda teacher, he frequently chanted Om, but he also warned us not to chant Om. He said that Om is, if you chant Om too much, you'll lose your job, your wife, and your home. And that's because Om itself is a word designed for detachment. It's designed to go out through the crown chakra and that spiritual system, right, through the top of the head, and identify with all of reality instead of your own individuality. And that's disembodying. So an embodied person, a healthy person has both embodiment and the ability to and the ability of empathy, right? To see others and see what's going on in their environment, to be alert and aware of the truth, right? So a person who has a balance of embodiment and this alertness or awareness of other too, sees their true identity as a whole package of body, mind, and spirit, right? As opposed to a spirit alone. And I would say that, as I mentioned earlier in this talk, that Ayurveda emphasizes the union of body, mind, and spirit, not just your existence as a spirit alone. The body, and to recognize the goodness of the body. I think Ayurveda emphasizes the goodness of the body, that the body is an instrument of all good, that all of our good, kind, and charitable acts have an effect on real material people and their real material bodies too. So their bodies are important, your body is important, and we need to have that good balance of embodiment and awareness of the other.